Hello everyone and welcome back to Walkman Phones. Today I'm going to be doing my review on the Sony Xperia 5, which is the spiritual successor to the Sony Xperia compact line of phones that was running for years. Sony has changed the name now. It's pretty much the same idea. The only difference really is they took the name compact out and it's in a different aspect ratio now, which is why I feel like they took the compact name away. This is a 21:9 aspect ratio, so it gives a lot different feel in the hand, form factor. There was a lot of hemming and hawing when this first was announced because a lot of the compact fans, including myself, thought the phone was going to be too tall and it wouldn't really meet that need that Sony had filled for so long. Basically, this is a restart for Sony. They've been doing phones for years now. They had the Xperia Z line for a long time with its omnibalance, real clean lines, design, real boxy. And then they went to the Xperia X line, which is a little more rounded. Then they went to the XZ line, which was rounded, and I don't know, they started to kind of go all over the place a little bit with their designs. So now, after a real big detour with the XZ2 and XZ3, where they had rounded backs and it kind of looked like an HTC ripoff from the U11, they decided, okay, we're going to restart everything. So they went with the Xperia 1 and the Xperia 5, and also the Xperia 10 in the mid-range. The Xperia 1 is the flagship, and it has a 6.5-inch screen and a 4K screen. And the Xperia 5 has a 6.1-inch screen and a 1080p screen as well. So basically, they're the same phone. It's the same idea as the compact line is what I'm trying to say. They've just basically stripped the name away and started over. Now, as far as design goes on this, it's very simple. They've pretty much returned to their omnibalance roots. It's a very plain Jane design, but very nice and handsome and sleek. The in-hand feel is beautiful. The balance on this phone, the weight, around 165 grams, it's perfect. The big controversial point where the phone was going to be too tall to deal with, I haven't had any problem with it whatsoever. Fits in my pocket, no problem. In the hand is perfect. Like I said, the balance of it, they really put a lot of thought into this. So I think it's a worthy replacement of the compact line, even though it doesn't have the compact name. As you can see, really clean lines. They've basically gone back to the omnibalance. It's rounded off a little bit at the corners, but it still retains the boxy look of the Xperia Z line from the past. The Xperia 1 had the triple camera sensor in the middle of the phone, whereas the Xperia 5 has moved it over, right? That's pretty much the only difference between them. The screen size has shrunken down and the resolution's down a little bit. The camera sensor has been moved, and the battery capacity is down a little bit. On the Xperia 5, it is at 3140 milliamp hour battery. So basically, we'll go over some of the design cues here in the hardware. As you can see, it's a very plain phone. Handsome, but plain. And that's Sony's style with their phones. They want everything to be really sleek and simple and really easy to look at. So basically here we have the metal band running along, glass on the back, glass on the front. You have your speaker setup one down-facing speaker right here next to the USB-C charging port. There is no headphone jack. And you have your earpiece speaker up here. And so you do get the stereo sound effect, but it's not true stereo sound because this is down-facing. Up top, they have kept the LED notification light. And one of the reasons that they could do that was Sony decided to stay away from doing a notch or a hole punch, and they have stayed with the traditional look of having a chin and a forehead, which I like. I mean, I think it lends to the symmetry of the device, and it's a more traditional look. So that I think that they've stepped forward into the future with doing 21:9 and giving you that nice narrow feel in the hand and really nice form factor, right? But then they've kept it traditional with the top and bottom, with the bezels. And the phone curves slightly off to the side, but you still have very tiny thin bezels running along the side of the screen. Along the sides here on the right hand side is where you'll find all your buttons. There are no buttons on the left hand side. It just has your removable SIM card tray, which does not need a tool. You could just throw a fingernail into that little cutout right there and pull. There is expandable storage. It's a 128 gig model. You can add on to that if you'd like. 128 gigs is the only model, by the way. So on the right hand side, you have all your buttons. You have your standard for Xperia's camera shutter button. You could just launch into the camera right from there. Right. You have your power button above that. Very tiny power button. Right above that, you have your standalone fingerprint reader. And then you have your volume up and down rocker above that. Everything's in a good place, I've noticed. Everything, like I said, they really thought about the comfort of use with this phone a lot. You can tell from the balance of it, the weight, just the way everything is positioned. As you can see, the fingerprint reader is right in a good spot. The power button, I like that they're separated personally. I remember a compact phone in the past that I had, the X Compact. What would happen was, since the power button and the fingerprint scanner were integrated, that you couldn't see your notifications. If you went to press, it just jumped you right in. So here you can hit the power button and it'll actually pop you up so you can see your notifications. Now, a lot has changed since then anyways. There's a new ambient mode, which is kind of like your always on screen. As you can see here, you lift up and it'll pop up. So it'll let you know that you have a notification right there. But like I said, if you turn it on, it'll give you the actual message here. On the ambient screen, it just lets you know you have a message here. It'll tell you what the message is. The LED notification light is still there. I love that. For some reason, that totally, to me, that's Android. And the fact that most OEMs don't do that anymore drives me crazy. They just kind of substituted and said, here's your ambient screen and you're always on to screen, and that's good enough. I still want to see the light blinking from across the room or from far away. I don't want to have to deal with, okay, I need to get close to the phone, or I need to, pick it up or just look at it. I want to be able to see it from further away, but that's just me. In terms of the buttons, they're nice buttons. I feel like they could have gone with metal. They went with plastic. They have nice click to them. They're all right. The up and down volume button, the up has gotten a little mushy over the, almost 2 months that I've had it. It's not too big of a deal, but I thought I'd mention that. It could have been a little bit of a nicer touch if they would have done that. The fingerprint scanner, here's where we're going to start to get into things that I don't really care for. The fingerprint scanner is not the best in the West. It can be moody. It doesn't like to let you in all the time. What happens is you have to be kind of precise with where you put your finger or your thumb. It doesn't always pick everything up. Sometimes it helps when you hit the power button first and then use the fingerprint scanner. But like I said, sometimes you have to push down on the scanner, and if it's a standalone scanner, right, that's always on, you shouldn't have to push to get into the phone. You shouldn't have to like find a sweet spot. See, it doesn't like to always let you in. So that's one of the things, I'd say one of the big things that lets the phone down, which is a real shame. It seems like every time Sony makes a phone, there is something that they trip on themselves. They trip over themselves, and the fingerprint scanner definitely is the culprit this time around. I don't know if they're going to fix that in the next version of this phone. The word is that next time around, the power button and the fingerprint scanner are going to be integrated again as one. And I don't know if that'll fix it or not. I mean, like I said, on the X Compact that I had years ago, I didn't have any problems. So maybe that's the issue, maybe not. Maybe they just use a cheap fingerprint scanner. I don't know. But I needed to mention that because it's kind of a big sticking point with this phone. Anyways, as we go into the phone a little bit, we look at the screen here. They are using a 1080p OLED screen, 6.1 inch. Sony's been doing OLED screens now for a couple years. They were a long time holdout. They did not use them for whatever reason, and now they do. And they use a really gorgeous panel, and there's no complaints that I have whatsoever. The brightness is nice. The screen saturation, everything watching videos, all of that is beautiful. The 21:9 aspect ratio, while there aren't a million things to watch with that aspect ratio, the letterboxing and zooming in, I have no issue with it. It's like I said, it's less about, for me, it's less about the content aspect ratio and more about the form factor and the comfort of using the phone with one hand. The fact that it's narrow like this makes it a breeze and a real joy to just use going back and forth. It's really nice, right? Now, one thing I will mention about the screen here, I'll bring it up here best I can. Let's go into wallpapers. One thing that I've noticed that it's weird, and it only does it on this one wallpaper, and I think it just started doing it recently. When you select this wallpaper, what it does is, I don't know if you can pick that up, but see towards the top, it's almost like the screen's dead, or there's light bleed and like a green effect. And I've heard some of the new OnePlus phones are suffering from this with their OLED screens, where there's like a green tint and kind of a something screwy with the screen. Now, this is the only spot on the phone that you can see this. And I don't know if it's something with this particular wallpaper or the software or what, but it's definitely weird. And you go to any other wallpaper or anything else on the screen at any other point and you don't see it. But for some reason, that one wallpaper gives it problems. So I needed to mention that because I don't know if that's going to be a problem going down the line here. I hope it's not. I hope that's not the beginning of something bad for the screen. OLED screens can be a little temperamental for as beautiful as they are, but we'll have to see. It's just something I noticed that I said, okay, I need to really mention that, because otherwise it's, Anyways, so we'll talk about the battery life here. Like I said, it's a 3140 milliamp battery. Keeps the phone pretty thin. It's not the biggest battery in the world, but it does get you all day. I ran it for 24 straight hours. I got 5.5 hours of screen on time, and it comes with a wired charger, fast charger in the box, 18 watts. Went from 0 to 100 in about an hour and 45 minutes. This phone does not have wireless charging. For whatever reason, Sony decided, even though it has a glass back, they weren't going to do wireless charging. My thoughts on it, I don't care really. I've never really been into wireless charging like that, but I know some people it's a really big sticking point. The fact that they didn't do it, I think, might revolve around the fact that they have a software built into this called battery care. And what battery care does is prolongs the life of your battery over time and makes sure that the phone doesn't overcharge itself. So I think that might have weighed in as a deciding factor as to, okay, we're not going to do wireless charging because wireless charging does degrade your battery life over time. So that's just my thoughts. Maybe they did it that way because of that. Okay, we'll go into the OS now, which is a pretty stock affair. Sony just basically takes Android and makes everything pretty. They kind of leave everything alone. Like I said, they've got their real pretty wallpapers. Everything just has little flourishes here and there, but it's almost like you don't notice what they've done to it for the most part. It's that stock. You know, little widgets here and there, like their Sony News Suite app is pretty nice. I like to use that. It's running Android 10, right? It came with Android 9 back in the fall of 2019. It was then quickly updated to Android 10. It will be getting Android 11 when that comes, and if I had to put money on it, it will get Android 12 after that. It is running a security update. Sony's pretty good about running out security updates and Android updates. This is running a little bit behind. I believe this is on the March security update. We're going into May. I think they had said, I read that the April update is out, but it hasn't hit the US region yet for whatever reason. I'm not sure why, but it should be getting that soon. The performance as you go through the OS, very snappy. There is no 90 hertz screen or 120 hertz screen. They haven't gotten into any of that yet. And, you know, I know that's the new hot thing, but I don't know when Sony's going to do that. It might be a while. If I had to guess, they're going to wait until next year to do that. But you could see it towards the fall. Now, see, everything breezes through nicely. Performance has been nice on the Snapdragon 855. No complaints, no crashing. Everything starts up nicely. The camera starts out. We'll talk about the camera a little bit here. This is one of Sony's first, I think that this is the first year that Sony's done triple camera. Yeah, I'm right about that. Well, 2019 was anyways. The Xperia 1 had the triple camera, and the Xperia 5 has the triple camera. I forget if the Xperia 10 does or not. It might, but don't quote me on that. So like I said, the camera, I'm not big on taking pictures. I mostly just take pictures of my puppy, or just little random things that I see from time to time. I'm not huge on it. I'll show you some of the pictures that I've got. I did take a couple just because I knew I was reviewing the phone. I took a few more. So you can see that's the the wide angle, right? That's at the corner of where I live. Big iPhone advertisement. I'm talking about their ultra wide. So you got that. So let's see. We go through. It's got good detail. The colors are nice and punchy. Here's my puppy, Betsy. Sorry about the car alarm going off in the background. Chicago's stupid noisy, especially my neighborhood. See, so some of these are zoomed in, like that's the zoom in mode. So basically it has, and that's another wide angle. So we get out of that, let's go into the camera. Like I said, you can launch by just pressing this button here. It'll tell you when your finger's over the lens. It loves to tell you that. Like right away, the phone buzzes and tells you your finger's over the lens. It's like, okay. See, and then here, my finger's not over the lens at all. It still tells me that. So from time to time, it can be a little weird. It does like to tell you I'm going to close the camera because of inactivity. I don't know why. That, to me, that's weird, but I don't know. Something they do. Now, try to line up. Okay, so you've got your regular. These are all 12 megapixels, by the way. It's your regular. It's your zoom. And your wide angle. The wide angle's been fun, you know? I'm actually having fun with it. Like I said, I'm not real big on cameras, but at the same time, it's cool to have. The telephoto. I've never really been one on zooming in because zooming in, you start to get that digital noise, and that's not as cool. But the wide angle's been cool, and telephoto's nice. So these are all good options to have, definitely. Especially if you like to take pictures. The shutter button it's not the fastest in the world, especially if you're using there's a little bit of a delay, not much. It does have the burst shot, and it has predictive capture where it tries to take like if you're taking a picture of your pet and your pet moves around or something like that, it tries to take a couple pictures really quickly, and then you could choose from there. But sometimes it's finicky on when it actually does that. There's a bunch of different little modes in here. There's the AR effect. Let's see. You put a dinosaur. That's fun. Dinosaurs hanging out on the NES Classic. Okay. Anyways, so that's enough of the camera. It's a good camera. It's nice. But like I said, I'm not the biggest camera guy in the world, so I don't want to tell you too much. I know that for video, they have something built in here called Cinema Pro. And Cinema Pro is super fancy-dancy controls for videos and all this and recording. I have no idea about any of this stuff, but I'm sure that if you're a videophile, you'll love it because it looks like it's got a million different options. Let's see, what else can we talk about here? So yeah, just to get back to the fingerprint scanner real quick, because I do want to stress that this is a problem on this phone. What I've done to help it is there's something called Trusted Agent. You can double tap to wake, which is real nice. But Trusted Agent basically means when the phone's on you, you can just swipe up and the phone opens. You don't need to worry about unlocking it all the time. There is no face detection or eye detection to open the phone. So you're left with, you have your fingerprint scanner when it wants to behave. You've got your PIN, or your trusted unlock. See, and sometimes that can be a little goofy too. So, this phone's let down by the fingerprint scanner and the unlocking. I'm not gonna lie, it's let down, and it's more than frustrating sometimes. This is a premium device. You pay a lot of money for it. This phone was $800 unlocked here in the U.S., and it pisses you off that they stumbled over something that should be pretty simple this far into the smartphone game. Now, that being said, a lot of stuff is really nice about this phone. Like I said, the build quality, the comfort in the hand feel, and just the ease of use. Making phone calls on it, the call quality is fantastic. Holding the phone to your ear and making phone calls is really, really nice. I can't get over too much. I can't stress enough how comfortable the 21:9 aspect ratio is, and for the form factor of a phone. It's probably the most comfortable phone that I've ever used, ever. And so that makes me forgive thing like the fingerprint scanner, which is not good. But that's how nice the form factor is, that I'm going to keep this phone around even though I don't care for the fingerprint scanner. That's basically where we're at with it. The volume is nice on the phone. Using headphones, it's got different settings in here. There's a dynamic setting, Dolby Atmos. Is a true Walkman phone. It is nice and loud. You can use it. I work in a louder environment. You can use it, as a boombox. You set it on the table and play music out loud. You can hear it across the room well, even in a little bit noisier environment. Headphone performance is nice. They give you the dongle, even though this year they're going back to the headphone jack because people are starting to request that. So they've ceded to popular demand, and that's going to be coming back this year. There's a couple other things, basically gimmicky things. Something called Side Sense, which is, you tap the side of the screen and it brings up your apps. It's a little redundant considering you can just do that and get your apps. Also, there is multi-window, where you can choose different configurations for what you want to be top and bottom for your screens. You have your Twitter and YouTube. You can use basically anything you want. It's got one-handed mode. Most phones have that though. To get out of multi-window, there's the exit multi-window. And that's pretty much the phone. I mean, it's a really nice phone that's let down by the fingerprint scanner. So if I were to say, get this phone or don't get this phone, I would say it's a toss-up, because as much as I adore the phone and think the screen is fantastic and the build quality is great and the form factor and the 21:9, everything's beautiful about it, I can't in good conscience tell you, yes, go run out and get this phone, because the fingerprint scanner is a letdown and it's going to disappoint about half the time, which for most people, I think, that are outside of really wanting a Sony phone, that's going to really upset them. So I'd leave it at that. It's a toss-up whether or not you want to spend the money on this phone. It's kind of an expensive phone, and hopefully Sony will get it together for the next version of this phone, which is supposed to be coming out in the fall. We'll see what happens. So yeah, this was the review of the Sony Xperia 5. If there are any questions or anything that I failed to mention, please let me know and I will address it the best I can. Okay, until the next video, take care of yourselves and talk to you later. Bye.